right, hi there. Thank you for joining today's webinar, American Made. We'll go ahead and get started. It's right about that time. Just some quick housekeeping items. Everybody is muted and your video is disabled for all participants. The Q&A and the chat will be live during this webinar. So as you're thinking about things, go ahead and submit them and we will try to answer them during the webinar or at the end, but otherwise any of your comments will be shared with the panelists afterwards. And lastly, a recording will be shared with everybody who registered for this webinar. So in the next couple of days, you'll receive a follow-up email from us with the recording for this. So just really quick before we get started, I wanted to just say a little bit about today's webinar. So this month, MORTARR, along with plenty of other companies, have really focused on American Made. And for us, it's the products and services that follow suit. So MORTARR has just announced its newest product filter, where companies can now distinguish if their products actually fall under this Made in the US category. So today we'll be discussing American Made products and obviously what that process looks like. But after I was doing a little bit of research, I found it interesting that according to National Today, for every $1 spent in manufacturing, it actually adds another $1.40 to the economy. So products made in the US not only support, sustainability, they support labor and product standards, as well as economic growth. So local economies become increasingly more recession-proof or strong when we encourage sourcing from raw materials and, it increases our manufacturing jobs. So just a little bit of friendly research I did to prep for today's webinar, and I found that interesting enough that I wanted to share. So let's go ahead and do some brief introductions. So panelists, if you wouldn't mind sharing your video and unmuting yourself. Hi there. So to everyone out there, my name is Lindsay Rogers. I'm a customer success manager at MORTARR as well as their community manager. I'll be hosting today's webinar. And today we're joined by three panelists from different companies, and I would love if the three of you could go through and introduce yourself. John, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Sounds good, Lindsay. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Appreciate you tuning in here today. My name is John. I'm with a company called Arborwood. We're based in northern Minnesota. I oversee business development for Arborwood. And we are, of course, a domestic producer of thermally modified wood, primarily used for siding, decking, dimensional lumber applications. So we're working through, certainly through architectural specification. We're working with builders, even all the way to the sort of consumer level. So excited to share some thoughts on why we value American production.
Great, thank you. And Tim?
I'm Tim Nass, Vice President of Sales for Safety First. We are North America's only vertically integrated manufacturer of fire-resistive glass framing and entrances. Not only are we USA based, but we're also veteran owned. And I work predominantly with the architectural and glazing community. Our product is used primarily in commercial construction. It's a very narrow niche focused market segment, but one that's rapidly emerging as it enhances the overall safety of the building's design and its occupants. Our products allow the occupant to evacuate the building safely in the event of a fire. It also compartmentalizes to reduce the fire spread. So we have a large impact on the overall building design and safety of the construction and constructability. And so we're very pleased to be here and proud of our status as a USA-based manufacturer.
Great. Thank you for that. And Joe?
Hey, I'm Joe Remshard. I'm from Fabritrack Systems. We are an acoustical wall and ceiling company, basically providing high-end interior finishes that help a space function acoustically. My job, a little bit about myself, I started at Fabritrack approximately 10 years ago. as a design intern and now have grown to be the national sales manager. So kind of growing within the company. So it kind of just tells me a story that I really like the product. So it's a little bit easier for me to talk about it. So with that being said, I'm very excited to be part of this presentation and potentially future presentations. I do think we'll have a lot of collaboration between Tim, John, and myself. We're in similar industries, kind of talking about interior finishes. So I'd like to see kind of where this goes.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much to all three of you for being a part of this. Our favorite thing about these monthly webinars we've been doing with companies is just the perspectives, the varying perspectives that come from each of you, working for, different companies, manufacturing different products. So I think this will be a great webinar. So thank you again for participating. So, well, let's go ahead and get started. I know we have some questions for everybody to kind of go around and answer. To our audience out there, like I said before, please feel free to submit your questions or just anything you've got through the chat. We'll try to get to those too. So let's dive in. John, I thought I would start with you. So why is it important for products to be manufactured in the US? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Lindsay, I think you dropped a soundbite kind of at the top of the session here that's important, which is that dollar spent, yields $1.40 in sort of economic impact. And so I think most folks realize that, but it's important. I mean, when we're producing products here in the United States, we're helping create jobs, and there's a whole ancillary effect from logistics and all the hands that touch, from creation of product, from procurement of, say, raw materials, all the way to the time some end user gets a hold of that. So that's a very important part. I think this conversation is perhaps timely given what we've all endured over the past 18 or 20 months with COVID. If anybody has shopped for anything from a bicycle to a new car, we can see what the impact of parts produced overseas has done to the availability of some of those goods. And so from our vantage point, the fact that we are producing products here in the United States, and it's everything from the raw materials we source all the way through the supply chain is here. And while COVID has certainly impacted our business to some extent, not quite to the level that we've seen in other goods and services. And so it's allowed us to turn, to respond faster and really to keep material flowing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Tim, any feedback on that?
No, I think John hit, on a very important point. Obviously, all of these companies are invested in their local community and in, the United States in general. And one of the things that we notice in commercial construction is the need for replacement parts, or if material needs to be serviced, the ability to respond quickly is paramount, right? If a building's going to be occupied shortly or is already occupied, people don't want that kind of disruption. They don't want to deal with the maintenance issues for a long period of time. And so we feel our position as a local manufacturer, as a US-based manufacturer, allows us to respond quickly, both before and after an issue. So I think that's something that people may overlook when they're making their initial investment in a product, because they're often looking at their budget and they're looking at schedule now, and obviously a US-based manufacturer has a significant advantage considering all the things that we're up against with supply chain disruption. But I think that's really an important point that can't be overlooked, but often is overlooked.
Do you ever think that when people are thinking or building a space, let's say, and they're looking through trying to source their products, what that process looks like, do you think that sometimes they're looking kind of short vision and not long term? Do you see that in your fields at all? Do you ever?
Yeah, so I come from the acoustical division, right? So that's often one of the first things that'll be eliminated from a project if a budget is, tight. And kind of going on what Tim said here, interchangeability is one of the major things we focus on. If a wall gets damaged, you're getting the product from China or Asia somewhere, you might have a 14-week lead time to replace that wall panel, right? Where in our industry, having something made in the USA really aids to say, okay, a week and a half, and we'll have somebody out there putting a piece of fabric back up on the wall. And you really don't have any impact to your business. So yeah, I agree with Tim 100%, often overlooked. I don't want to say shortchanged, there's a million different things going on when specifying a product. But yeah, it's I guess my job here is to make sure that that doesn't get overlooked, and USA-based products make that a little bit easier.
Right. And I think, to your point, Joe, budget is a main concern. People are always looking at the financial impact of anything that's, comprising their building. And so, the story about, okay, you're making this investment, what are the maintenance costs? What does it take to keep this product in shape and working and presentable and making sure that your space is occupiable? And so those are things that people may not consider up front. They're looking at dollars and cents. And so you have to, like Joe said, you have to add that value back in. You have to make sure they understand what the investment is that they're making.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for that. So next question, Tim, I'll throw this to you first.
Okay.
So what does it mean for a product to be made or to be manufactured in the US? What does that mean?
Well, for us particularly, and I'm just going to focus on safety for a moment here, our market segment is dominated by large global entities. The products are typically shipped in from Europe and Asia and then redistributed in North America. Our owner and CEO, Bill O'Keefe, he's an entrepreneur, had opportunities to partner with larger global entities to bring similar products in, but that wasn't really what he wanted to do. And as an inventor, entrepreneur, his goal was to build his own organization in his own vision, and spent the last, the company's been around for 40 some odd years, but the last 15, he has invested heavily in our capabilities. So our manufacturing capabilities, at the top during my introduction, I said we're the only vertically integrated manufacturer. What that means is we control virtually every aspect of the manufacturing process. We've limited and restricted our reliance on outside vendors to produce our products. So we control the quality of the components, we control the quality of the end product. And that has been a huge investment in time and resources and money, but the end result is a great quality product that we're proud of, and that the construction industry, Division 8, they're proud to incorporate into their design. So it's a huge deal. I can't stress enough how much it means to be a USA-based manufacturer in a market segment like fire rated.
Wow, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe or John, any feedback on what it means to be manufactured in the US, coming from your perspective?
Yeah, I think some folks might be familiar with thermally modified wood, which is the product that we're producing here. And for those who aren't, the gist of it is that it's a natural process applied to lots of different species of wood to improve both aesthetics and outdoor stability. And so the very value proposition is this natural process, this natural product. And so reducing the carbon footprint to manufacture and distribute this stuff is like part of the jam, right? So subscribing to a material like that happens to be produced overseas and gets shipped over sort of debunks that whole mentality to some extent. And we even take it a step further, that notion of hyperlocal, which is a term that gets used a lot. But the process can be applied to many, many species of wood. And we have case studies where, for example, we will partner with municipalities who have to harvest trees that were impacted by some sort of insect infestation like emerald ash borer. We're able to apply our process to those trees that then get sort of new utility, new life, say in a public park in that same city. So, I mean, we're really even focusing within a singular metro region to help do this, which is really kind of fun and tells a really great story.
Yeah, that really does. I can't say that I was familiar with that process with Arborwood, but that is great to be able to repurpose something like that. So, and Joe, any feedback on that?
Yeah, so we're a three-component system typically. So to have three components that are American made, we do track, infill, and fabric. So we'll have the track that is stapled to the wall, infill that is then adhered to the wall, and then fabric to cover everything. So to have all three of those products sourced, from Baltimore, Maryland, North Carolina, United States, and we get a lot of our fabrics through, our infills through Johns Manville out in Denver, Colorado. So to have most of our products come from the United States, it really speaks volumes that, we're bolstering U.S. workforce labor as well. So we're keeping jobs in the United States. So that's something we try to pride ourselves on. Couldn't agree more with what Tim and John said. And I think John's story is awesome that, you're repurposing materials and turning them into fine, high-end interior finishes. So it's really cool to hear.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, great. So thank you for that. So next question, Joe, I'll throw this one to you. So what do you see as the main benefit to your company for manufacturing these products in the US?
Quality control, for sure. It's much easier to control quality when you're working with a U.S. mill. From customer service alone, there's no time difference. I can get on the phone with somebody who's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or Denver, Colorado, with a couple hours of time difference. And I can go to the mills, we can drive to there and say, hey, what's going on with this? It gives us a sense of reliability as well, watching the product be made in front of my own two eyes, turning around and repurposing that reliability to our customer base. So, aside from the obvious cost and, the lead times, quality control to us is absolutely huge in our industry.
Thank you. We're getting some great feedback in chats too. So people are loving this conversation. And someone even mentioned too, it's the quality of the working environment as well. You mentioned quality control, but just the quality of the work environment itself is a big piece of this too. So, so John, any feedback?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're starting to touch on that, Lindsay, that I think it's implied products that are made in the United States are made to a certain standard. I think workers typically are paid a good living wage. And so, therefore there's a increased sense of quality and the ability to Joe's point, to be part of validating quality control is really important. Lead time, turn time, all of those things I think are part of what makes this notion of made in America. When we think about sort of blue chip American made products out there, there's an implied sense of quality, sort of an heirloomness to it, if you will. So yeah.
And Tim?
Yeah, I was speaking to our operations manager, and he mentioned to me, oftentimes the highest quality product is the least expensive to make because you're dealing with quality components, right? So to echo what Joe and John said, I think there's that aspect to it. There's also that emotional investment aspect. You have a committed workforce that's in it for the long haul. They feel attached to the brand and the product that's produced. I think that's also inherent to a company's success. And from a little different perspective for us, because we're a code-driven product, our products are geared for the North American market. Products that are being imported are often used in places that have different standards. Not saying quality standards, but from a performance requirement, we have different standards here in the U.S. and Canada. So there's a barrier of entry, and we're addressing that head on specifically for the United States. And I think that's something that's probably, we don't mention enough, but often overlooked as well.
Well, I love that you brought that up because I have to say, I've never really thought about that before. Now, granted, I'm not sourcing commercial construction and design products frequently, or if at all, but that's something I don't know if I would have thought of, is this product is made to hit the standards of another area. So how do you ensure that it's hitting the standards that are required here or for the building that you have?
Exactly.
So that's really interesting. I love that you mentioned that. Okay, so on to the next question. So what's the process like for manufacturing in the US? I feel like the three of you have kind of touched on that a little bit in the last one, but I'd love to dive into that just a little bit more. John, maybe we could start with you.
Sure. So again, we're Minnesota based, and I think when I'm speaking, say, to an architect in Los Angeles, and we're producing an architectural wood product, and we happen to be from Minnesota, there's like this validation that, boy, these Minnesota folks must really know about wood because they live in the woods, So, which is not entirely untrue, and in fact, our business has largely been informed by the University of Minnesota, who on really an international level are some of the foremost experts, super smart PhD. I mean, some real wood nerds that have helped us develop this brand over the better part of a decade. So I think sometimes just by virtue of where we live and our knowledge of what's sort of local and native to us and what we've grown up with and our passion for, I mean, we're all passionate about our natural resources here in Minnesota, as many folks around the country are. And so it's really a good opportunity for us to find a responsible way to create economic development around some of these natural resources. And so I think it just lends to the whole story.
Love that. So Arbor Wood, wood nerds. I love that.
That's right. Yeah.
So Tim, same question to you. What's the process like for manufacturing in the U.S.?
Yeah, I'd just like to add, I'm in Wisconsin, so I can say Minnesota, they are wood nerds. So Safety is a California-based company, although I don't live in California. Our corporate headquarters are in San Francisco. We manufacture in Merced, California, which is in the Central Valley, just south of Fresno. And being in California creates some challenges. Like I mentioned, Bill O'Keefe, he actually manufactured our product and some other products, skylights, some ladders and things like that in the city of San Francisco, which was incredibly prohibitive. The cost of living in San Francisco is very high. The cost of doing business in California is incredibly high. But he's a native Californian, native San Franciscan, and was committed to the state, to the region, and relocated to Merced. We're probably the largest employer in that city. Bill is very civic minded, so gives back to the community. We have a couple of fundraisers and things that we do around the holidays, giving bikes to kids in the community and Christmas gifts and things of that nature. So, it's more than just business, right? There's an expense to doing business and a cost to doing business. We've expanded into 5 facilities. We've done major upgrades. So not only are we employing people directly, but indirectly as well through our enhancements and improvements. And, we're in it for the long haul and committed to Merced, making it a better place for our company and our employees and the residents of Merced. So it's a unique, and I think everybody shares the same, everybody on this panel shares sort of a similar emotional connection to the employer that they work for.
Mm-hmm. And then Joe, on to you. Process like for manufacturing here in the U.S.
Yeah, so it's not just the snap of the fingers and you have a product developed, right? So again, accessibility to be able to go to our extruder or the guy that's making the fabric for us or the printers that we work with. The fact that everything is USA based really makes for a streamlined process of coming up with a new product. We kind of strive ourselves here on keeping up with design trends. We're a design firm essentially. So we have to make sure that every architect and designer that we talk to, we can keep up with what they want to recommend. So if it's, felt on a wall, if it's, baffles hanging from a ceiling, if that's what they want, we have to strive to create that type of product for them, and making sure that everything is USA local makes it really, really simplistic for us. Just flying to, as we were saying in the beginning, John was talking about the pandemic. You can't even get to Europe right now. It's very difficult, so just the fact that, Zoom is great, but being able to go to the mill and watch people make fabric and watch people extrude track, it really just speaks volumes for us.
I'd just like to piggyback on Joe's comment about being a design firm. I think, while we're all in different market segments, that's a very true statement. Is you're working directly with the design community to build something unique for their specific application, and being local is a huge advantage.
Oh, you're muted, Joe.
Sorry, I think we can all probably agree on that. I promised myself I was not going to do that this whole meeting. And second question, third question, we can all agree on that. I mean, if you can't keep up with the trend, you're not going to make it. So.
Well, thank you for that. Next question is, what are the main differences in the sourcing process between the U.S. and something overseas? If any of you could kind of touch on that, the main difference for that process that you've seen. Tim, we could start with you.
Sure. I think one of the things that we've noticed is, we've all touched on the quality standard that's associated with an American-made product. But we've seen a different standard of whether it's the alloy content to the aluminum, or the finish that's used to finish the material, or the components used to comprise of a door or a framing system. For us, we adhere to very strict standards, very strict alloy content, the finishes that we use in-house or that we have to outsource to vendors in California. That's the biggest thing that we've noticed. And then, again, looking at the long-term investment from a maintenance standpoint, how do you replace some of those components? How do you repair some of those components? And for the American-made, American-based manufacturers, it seems like the quality is higher and the investment is greater on the front end.
John?
Yeah, I'll even circle back to some of my comments about what we're producing and how we're producing it. And the one of the big differences for us is just simply how nimble we can be in respect to innovation and product development. We can go in the backyard and we can find a species of wood that we can vet and do some testing around and see if the process works. We modify species like basswood for the Minnesota DNR to use for trailhead signs. And we do that because it grows in abundance here in the state of Minnesota. And we can apply that process kind of around the country. We're not dependent on some, international supplier of some part that goes into our finished product. And so for us, it's really about, in addition to all the other things we've been talking about, it does absolutely accelerate our ability to innovate and to always be just testing and vetting new products around new species of wood. So.
Thank you. And Joe?
Yeah, testing 100%. So being an interior finish, you have to have acoustical testing, fire testing. And the fact that we can source the material, kind of exactly what John is saying, we can take those materials and test them locally as well, because obviously they have to be ASTM standards. So we're able to test those and make sure that it's right for the built environment. So Astm E84 testing, we have every one of our systems prior to becoming a product in the FabriTrack product line has to be Class A. So for us to be able to do that, I mean, like you could say the obvious cost and lead time, they're probably the two most important things when it comes to the construction industry. You have a tight budget and you need it installed tomorrow. They're the obvious things that USA made products help. But the, things that fall into the background, such as testing, the fact that you get to you get to that box that you have to check, and that FabriTrack has tested all of their products, and I'm sure both of your companies as well. If there is a custom test that needs to be done, the fact that the materials are sourced locally, we can do it rather quickly.
That's a really good point.
And this may not be a direct response or answering your question directly, Lindsay, but I had an acquaintance in our industry that worked for a large European conglomerate, and he would tell me that the parent company would dump product on their division here in the U.S. because they needed it on their books. So it was a sale for corporate. Then he was stuck with this product that he had to push in the U.S. So it wasn't about supply and demand, and it wasn't about what the market was requiring. It was corporate imposing this on him and his group in order to to move products. So we're not up against that kind of pressure, and I think it's unrealistic and unfair to do that to companies. But we don't have to succumb to that kind of pressure at a corporate level.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. For some companies just need to be able to check those boxes when they're with paperwork, whatever that is. So it's
Right.
good to know that American-made products or the company can safely say that this is all fact. This is true. This is how we test it. So that's great. So our next question, Joe, I'm going to throw this to you first, and this is one of my favorite ones that I was just very curious to hear all of your feedback on. But when you're working with a client, what are you seeing as reasons why someone would opt in or opt out of selecting an American-made product?
Quite obvious cost, So I think I saw a question come through from somebody about it's not always apples to apples when you're talking about American-made products. And I think it was John that said there's weight behind that term, made in USA. It just feels strong. So though it may not always be the cheapest product on the market, kind of going back to what Tim said, when you factor in maintenance of the product, it's going to be less expensive to bring in and less expensive to maintain. So I don't necessarily see a lot of people opting out once you present the product. But again, quality is really, really big. And in an interior finish, we're a site applied system. So everything needs to be down to a 16th of an inch to a sense, to where if we're off and one of our infills is outset of our track, you're going to notice an imperfection. So when you start talking about and bolstering the quality of an American made product, it tends to kind of wipe away some of our competitors that necessarily are, some of the track profile or track companies that are not American made.
And Tim?
I think just to piggyback on Joe's comments, I think that that phrase "Made in America" resonates with certain buyers. From our perspective, it's spec compliance, it's code compliance, and then we look at the end user. If it's the federal government, they require that, right? They want to make sure that they're reinvesting in American-made products. So I believe that has cachet, that it has meaning and weight behind it, but also knowing that the quality's there, that the response, the relationship is going to be there, that it's not just a sale and then we move on to the next opportunity or venture. And so I think those things resonate with buyers and they look for that actively.
Thank you. And John?
Yeah, I think for us, price certainly has to be competitive, has to be in the realm of reasonability, but price is third or fourth or fifth on the list when we're having conversations with most of our audience. And I think this most recent question, which is tying into this topic, is great. And I'm kind of a believer that price is a communicator of value, which is to say that perhaps a premium price should therefore warrant a premium amount of value kind of commensurate with that price tag. And that's things we've talked about. It's standing behind products. It's providing a level of service at sort of a consultative level, really helping folks throughout, I think with all of our products, helping folks, whoever it is we're talking to, make the decision. I like to remind myself that the people we're talking to are oftentimes dealing with the most important thing in their life at that time. They're designing their dream home. It's a developer, investing and developing a substantial piece of property. And so being able to produce products that we can stand behind, will be here, we have to charge accordingly. And so people, I think, are willing to pay for that. They're willing to pay for the story. They're willing to pay, again, from our vantage point, more for products that have some story and sustainability, or products that are gentle on the planet. That whole idea is becoming more and more important to architects, designers, builders. So
thank you. Well, and I can say too, this came through as a chat a little bit earlier, but it truly, you can see the commitment and passion coming through from all three of you. So, and I feel like for a customer to have a conversation with somebody at your company, whether it be you or somebody else, they can really see that come through, and you can almost put trust behind that, because you feel so strongly with what it is that you're talking about, or the message that your company is trying to send in the work that you do. So definitely that comes through, even having this conversation with the three of you. So we did have another question come through, and it just happens to go right with our next question. But so how are you communicating your value to specifiers and customers so that they realize, what you're providing is, different than your competitors, or just being here in the U.S.? Like, how are you communicating that value proposition? Oh, let's go, Tim. You want to start with that one?
Sure. So I repeat the phrase, North America's only vertically integrated manufacturer of fire resistive glass and framing, probably 100 times a day. To anybody, my kids, my wife, anyone who will listen. We communicate that message to the architectural community directly through continuing educational webinars, through our advertising and marketing and brand positioning, and really, again, unique to the fire rated market segment. We are differentiated simply by that position. Just being USA based and making our products locally is a differentiator. And we have to meet the minimum standards for the code before we can even propose a product, right? So we have to prove empirically that our product is going to perform up to standards required by the International Building Code. Then we go further and say, okay, we have the largest clear views, and that means, one piece of glass without any intermediate framing members. We can span 26 feet if we need to structurally. So we start to identify our capabilities by virtue of what we are as a vertically integrated manufacturer. So it's all wrapped together, right? We communicate who we are and what we do, and then how we do it. And I think that resonates as well, because Joe mentioned we're a design firm, right? We respond to the trends at the architectural level, at the design level. We try to see where things are going as best we can guess, and then develop products accordingly. And we're limited. We can't build anything that we haven't tested. So, we have to go into the test lab and certify that product. And I can't sell a piece of glass larger than anything I've tested. So, it's a little different and unique for us. We've already proven ourselves. We've gone to the proving grounds, and now we're showing the design community and the end user what we have to offer.
And Joe, to you, that value, how are you communicating that?
So a couple of different ways, like the obvious throughout social media. I mean, we signed on with this really awesome company called MORTARR, to help promote that for us. I got a little brown nosing here. No, but we do a lot through social. We do a lot on our website, through all of our product literature, down to the swag that we have. Everything we have is made in America here. So, we try to really live on that. And, anytime if we put samples into a plastic bag, we make sure that bag is sourced from America. We write on all of, I have a couple of samples here, on all of our actual track profiles. I don't know if you guys can see, it's kind of tough here. Let me try this one. It actually is stamped on the track profile that it's made in the USA. So we're trying to separate ourselves from some of our competition by saying that is a Fabri-Track stick of track that is bar none the best stick of track in the industry. So aside from all of the, hey, we could throw a post up on our website, we want to make sure physically we promote that as well.
I love that attention to detail too. I would have never thought that, you're putting, something as small as a little bag together, make sure that what you're using to showcase what you do is all made in the US,
Yeah.
make a consistent branding message.
Don't worry, you guys are all getting a hat too. We're going to send one out to you. So.
So, and John, over to you. Value proposition, how do you communicate that?
Yeah, I mean, similar to Joe and Tim as well. I mean, we take great effort to sort of put that, it's kind of perhaps our biggest value proposition. I mean, the science behind thermally modified wood is specific enough where we're kind of adhering to industry best practices. So really the way we can differentiate ourselves is by the fact that we're American made. And again, we go, we're made in Minnesota is really the message that we put out there a lot, because of that, potentially that association that folks in Minnesota must know something about wood. So we do go to great lengths to put that message out there.
Yeah, Minnesota, we know about wood, but we're nice too.
That's right. I will say that sort of the counterpoint to that in our industry is that this material is somewhat new to the States. The technology was developed in Europe, and we've kind of been at the leading edge domestically. There aren't a lot of domestic producers of this stuff here, and so it has its pros and cons. So we're kind of being required to somewhat lead the charge as far as incorporating modified wood into American building codes and standards, which isn't always easy to do.
Yeah, and John, just to tack onto that, one of the things that we see in fenestration is there is a subset of the architectural community that looks at Europe as the innovator, whether it's design or performance, and that's something that we have to overcome, because our products are equally as high performing, as equally as innovative, but there's a group of people that look across the ocean for inspiration, and so we have to reinforce to them that it's available here as well.
Well, thank you for that. And then for our next question, John, I'm going to have you start with this one. In the beginning of our chat, you had mentioned just a little bit of, so we've seen a shift here with our manufacturing, just with COVID and seeing that products made overseas. We really saw that drop off when everything kind of shut down. So can you talk a little bit more about the shift you've seen in demand for American-made products, and what else do you think has contributed to this?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a big increased demand. And in fact, I mean, even yesterday, we were sort of fortunate enough to have an opportunity with a fairly well-known manufacturer of modern, I'll call them kit homes, and a big part of their product is wood cladding, wood flooring, paneling, things like that. And the product that they're using is working great. The product that they're using is priced appropriately, but the product that they're using is manufactured in Europe. And so they're picking their heads up and they're saying, you know, we're an American manufacturer. We want partners that are, to the extent possible, that are American-made products. And price isn't really part of the conversation. Again, to my earlier point, I mean, price has to be reasonable. Price has to still fit their business model, fit their price point. But they are looking for products that they know they can get faster. They're looking for products made here with people that they can build real partnership with. And so we're absolutely seeing a huge shift. And it really is, for us, just the fact that we're here in the States that's getting us kind of a seat at the table. So, and I think it's for the reasons that we've really been talking about throughout the session here.
Yeah, thank you. And Tim?
So, you know, similar to John's point, I will say this about fire-rated glass. We're not at the forefront of, you know, everybody's consciousness at the beginning of a project, right? They're not all like, how am I going to get fire-rated glass into this? So we really have an opportunity here because the way the codes are evolving, the demand for our product is increasing. And then we can educate, you know, this is who we are. This is how we differentiate from our competition. And that resonates, the fact that we're a USA-made company. I think everybody's making a business decision ultimately, right? So they're going to do what they think is in the best interest for their project or their company. And I think the fact that they're dealing with USA-based manufacturers goes a long way. And I've noticed that we've had people reach out to us because they've seen something on Instagram or on Twitter or Facebook or, you know, LinkedIn. You know, they say, hey, I see this is made here. Can you tell me more? Because they're just trying to learn. And so it really gives us an opportunity at a grassroots level to re-educate. And but I think that, you know, we talked about this a couple of different times, that initial investment, how far does it take you, right? Well, you know, you only get what you pay for. So, you know, like we said, low price, perhaps it's not going to be the highest quality. It's not going to be the most durable product. So those are all things that we try to communicate. And I think is really part of the specification and decision-making process in our market segment.
So Joe, that question to you now.
Sure. Yeah, kind of, again, going off of what both these gentlemen have said, it's availability and education. If we're able to get out there and say, hey, USA products are equal or equivalent to what's manufactured in Europe, if not sometimes better, you know, kind of what John was saying, if you educate the architect and design community, which I give, you know, I tip my hat to them because they're the one who specifies our product. So if they know that we have an equal that's sourced locally, kind of a gift and a curse due to COVID because you weren't able to get materials. I mean, I've seen lead times for some of our other competitors, 16, 18, 20 weeks, $10,000 to ship. And it's okay, well, adapt or die. I have to go to an American-made product. So sometimes it came to us and we said, wow, well, we'll take this opportunity and we'll run with it. And I could imagine, John, you saw a ton of that because now they couldn't get the material from Europe. And you're like, hey, well, I'm your guy. I'm a wood nerd. Here I am. Hello, nice to meet you. So I think, yeah, education and availability is huge.
Well, thank you for that, you guys. So next question, Joe, I'll start with you. So outside of where you're located or founded, what does it mean or why have you chosen to remain American-made?
Consistency, 100%. Accuracy and consistency. I could beat a dead horse with that. It's just absolutely 100% important for us to make sure that our products are consistent.
And John, over to you.
Yeah, I think maybe underneath the obvious and the products and the dollars and cents, I mean, we're really passionate, our business partners, we're passionate to create a really great company. We're passionate to create a brand that people want to be a part of. And that's both people that are working with us and people that are buying our products. And so I think being able to be an employer that's creating jobs, working hard to create jobs that are good, rewarding jobs, not just financially, but just a good, fun, enjoyable place to work is really important to us. Being good stewards of our community and our community resources is really important to us. And that's just, you're in a better position to do that, I think, if you kind of focus your energy on where you live, work, play, etc. So.
And Tim?
Yeah, I would echo the sentiments of Joe and John. And I would also say that, you know, Bill O'Keefe, the owner and founder of our company, you know, this is a passion project. He's actually advocated for code change. There's a product, wire glass, that was responsible for a substantial amount of personal injury. And Bill litigated, or excuse me, not litigated, but you know, lobbied to have the code updated to remove that product from commercial construction, you know, for not only the safety of the occupants, but the safety of the constructability of the building. So, you know, he's invested, right? This isn't just a business for him. This is, you know, his passion, and he believes wholeheartedly that the best products are made in the U.S. using materials sourced from the U.S. So it just runs very, very deep throughout the fabric of our organization from top to bottom.
And I feel like listening to the three of you, I can see that kind of runs deep in all of your companies. You know, Made in the USA is an important aspect of each of your companies, and it's something that the three of you feel very passionate about. So you've definitely communicated that so well, where, you know, people can feel that from the core. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I love what John said. It just feels good to employ people within your own country, you know, to actually give back to the USA. I don't know if you guys are fans of the Olympics, but the lines came out and USA 42.5 medals over. You take the over all day.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you got to root for your country. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
just feels good. Kind of a little tidbit there.
Yeah, thank you. So we're on to our last question, and this is one of my favorite questions to ask, and I try to do this in each webinar. But I would love to hear about one specific project from each of you that really stands out, and you know, about the products that you make here in the U.S., but just a project that really stands out to you that you can share with us. So, John, let's go ahead and start with you.
Sure. You know, I talk about Minnesota a lot. I promise you we sell our product all over North America, but really I think the crown jewel in our project portfolio is in the Twin Cities here in Minnesota. It's the Bell Museum of Natural History, which is part of the University of Minnesota's campus, their St. Paul campus specifically. And it was, I want to say, a $75 or $85 million project designed by Perkins and Will. And the building was really intended, the design of the building and the purpose of the building, the nature of the exhibits in the building is really about telling Minnesota's story both from a wildlife and agricultural perspective, a geological perspective. And so it was really important that the building, the physical structure, speaks to what it is to be in Minnesota. And so it was an opportunity for us, heavy LEED criteria. The building's won dozens of awards, but we were able to source wood within, I want to say it was a 2-hour radius of the building site proper. It's Minnesota white pine. It's not a standard product for us, but you know, it doesn't really matter. It's the process and the story that's really kind of compelling here. And so we were able to work with local loggers, local transportation companies, you know, local design and architects. The contractor was local. I mean, the whole thing had this super duper local feeling to really tell this great story about Minnesota's natural resources. And so it's a beautiful building. There's a lot of pictures of it online. There's pictures on our website. There's pictures on MORTARR, Perkins and Will. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stories. It's worth a quick Google search. It's the Bell Museum. But that would be just a great case study from beginning to end to kind of what we do and how we do it, why we do it, and what it looks like when done to like sort of the nth degree.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that. So Tim, on to you. Your favorite project.
Yeah, this one is for sentimental reasons. So I've been with safety since 2009, and we've grown significantly in that time. And we did a project in Florida called the VA in Orlando. It was a GSA project, a federally funded project. And it was a 2-hour exterior hurricane impact. So we had to design a 120-minute transparent wall. So Our product would compartmentalize smoke and flames, stop the transfer of radiant heat that's generated from a fire. So the heat flux that transfers through has to be compartmentalized as well. So we developed a custom system that was fully unitized. So the framing was assembled in our shop. The glass was glazed into the frame in our shop. It was shipped to the job site, fully assembled and glazed, and then erected into the opening in the field. Now, what's unique about this is, predominantly, up to that point, most of the fire-rated applications were on the inside of a building. There was air, water, thermal requirements for the project on top of the fire-rated requirements, and it had to withstand large and small missile impact because it was a hurricane zone. So we created a product that from the exterior, or the interior for that matter, is indistinguishable from the non-rated glass and framing that comprises the balance of the building. And that was sort of our coming of age moment. We worked with a prominent glazing subcontractor and a prominent general contractor, and people took notice of who we were and what we were capable of accomplishing. So, like John mentioned, it had recycled content, made in America, fully unitized, which is highly unusual for the fire resistive market segment because of weight associated with our products. But from a performance standpoint, from an aesthetic standpoint, from just pulling this project off, it's really a feather in our cap to everybody in our organization. So it too is available on the web. You can find articles about it, pictures of it. It's really something to behold.
What was the name of that project again? I missed it when you said it at the beginning.
I'm sorry, it's the VA hospital in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah. Taking some notes on this because I think this would be a good thing to put in our follow-up email to all of the attendees. I'm sure they would love to learn more about these projects. So, and Joe, that goes to you now. Your favorite project?
Yeah, so I'm gonna play locally to your area out in Scottsdale, Arizona. I believe you're from Arizona, right? There's a restaurant called Steak 48. I don't know if you've ever been. So originally, if you've ever been to that dining room, so I'm a big foodie, so this is, again, kind of like what Tim said, this one just plays to me. They have a vaulted brick ceiling on the throughout their dining room. And it was put up with American, bricks, still American-made product. And they came to one of our distributors and said, man, we cannot operate. This space does not function from an acoustical perspective. What can you guys do for us? So we kind of haphazardly said, let's just take some pictures of it and print that material onto fabric and put it back up, and hopefully nobody notices. We kind of said that jokingly, maybe 20, 30% serious. That's what ended up happening. So we actually went in and took photographs of, and if you've ever been to that restaurant, there's an area over, I think it's like a segregated wine room, and then also in the entire lobby. If you look up on the ceiling there, that's not actual brick. It's high quality printed brick on our fabric with an inch of infill behind it so that it's stopping the echo within a room. So for me, that was really, I played a pretty big part on that because I wanted to see the customer succeed. They built this beautiful multi-million-dollar restaurant. They're selling steaks for $150 a pop, but nobody's coming because it's too loud. So we were able to kind of like resurface that. And we actually became part of their brand book for their other locations throughout the United States. So, out in Charlotte, Philadelphia, and then one's going up. I don't know if you guys are local to California, but Del Mar as well, I think, is the next one. So that one kind of speaks to me, and we have phenomenal photos of it as well. So if anybody would like to see some, feel free.
Yeah, that is great. I love that you brought up the experience of the customer because it's not only your customer, but it's about that company's customers as well.
Yeah, it was sorry, it was interesting. I got to meet the owner of the restaurant, and he invited me personally out for his steak. It was very nice. We shook hands, and I said, so what do you think? He goes, I will never build another restaurant without your product in it. So that's a huge, I'm like, man, that makes me feel really good. I did something right,
Well, and what a nod to customer service. I work in a customer service capacity as well for MORTAR, and I think that that speaks a lot for volume. That speaks volumes too, is just the stellar customer service that somebody provides, and that goes right back to the passion that you feel for your company and, sharing that message. So it's great. Love that. Well, thank you so much, all three of you. This has been such a great webinar. I've really enjoyed it. And I think we've covered some great topics, and I'm hoping everybody out there in the web universe has enjoyed it as well. Um, I do have email addresses for the three of you. So everybody out there, if you have a question or you just like to know additional information about the products we've discussed, their email addresses will be shared in that follow-up email along with the webinar recording. So that will be coming in the next few days. So I think that we're good to go. We'll kind of share back. Everybody gets 5 minutes back of their lunchtime or whatever time it is where you are located. So before we officially close out, to everybody, make sure to follow MORTARR on social media. As I mentioned, we do these webinars each month, and we're always providing updates on there on social, via email, all of that. So please follow along with us. And again, to our three panelists, thank you so much for participating. This has been a wonderful webinar, and we'll be in touch soon. So everybody,
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Yep. Have a great rest of the day.
Yes.